FPL Game Week 36 team selection. The deadline is tomorrow and it's a late kickoff, so we've got plenty of time to mull over decisions and also who's the best four to bring in, with Wissa, Wood and also Cunha providing great options this week. So in today's video we're going through my team selection for the week and my transfer plans as well. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you smash that like button and hit that subscribe, and let's get into it. What's up? It's FPL Vert, where arrows go green, and as you can see, for successive game weeks they've gone green again. Yeah. 64 points, which was 14 points above the safety score, so we've got a sizable rise inside the top 20k, and given that there's only 3 game weeks left, we're currently 19 points off the top 10k, so the last 3 game weeks are going to be very much focusing on trying to secure successive back-to-back top 10k finishes. So 19 points away, so we can talk about how we can maybe differentiate from the field a little bit. But just a review of how game week 35 went. I actually got off to a pretty poor start because I did actually bench Emi Martinez's 9-pointer as well as Konza's 6-pointer, which was a bit of a shame. Probably should have looked at the data a little bit closely, given that Villa's form has actually been very well. They're doing very well defensively, so definitely an overlook on my part. But Wan-Bissaka did pay off, because I don't think I would have it was definitely between Wan-Bissaka and Konza. So Wan-Bissaka got an assist and he got bonus as well, so he actually did better than Konza did, so we can take that to the bank. But definitely I should have started Emi Martinez over Raya. But yeah, gvardiol got 8 points in, pretty much probably did nothing for my rank, seeing that pretty much everyone owns him. But someone that not everyone owns in Kevin De Bruyne was a big differential, 11 points. Thank you very much. Of course his ownership is going to skyrocket this week, but nice to have him before everyone else does. Also with Bowen as well, obviously I was meant to go for MBEUMO, that was the talk of the town last week, but I just thought that Tottenham Hotspur were a better opponent, given that Bowen is closer to goal, and MBEUMO can sometimes be on the touchline in like the bigger games, if you want to call it that, but I just thought that Tottenham were conceding more goals. As it happens, we're actually kind of lucky because of course Brentford did score 4 goals and MBEUMO only got 1 return. It was an assist, so kind of lucky on that part. But I did stand by my decision. I did think Bowen was a bit more of a threat, and he scored. So I was right on that one. And also I wasn't too sure on the captaincy last week as well. We went for Isak, given that Brighton have been pretty porous defensively. We kind of got out of jail because he took a penalty, but that's just a stark reminder that owning penalty takers and captaining penalty takers has its many upsides. So that's how we did. Of course Salah blanked again, as did Mateta and Marmoush, who's just continues to disappoint. But yeah, that's the team for now, so we can talk into some transfer plans. So looking into my transfer plans in game week 36, and it's pretty much down to one team, and that's Crystal Palace. We've got a bit of a Crystal Palace problem. The Eagles have just got 1 win in their last 7 matches. Of course they had back-to-back double game weeks in game week 32 and 33. In game week 32, double game week, they lost both of them, conceding 5 goals on both occasions. And then in the game week 33, double game week, they drew both of them. So obviously, we don't doubt their quality. Of course, they've made the FA Cup final, but that is part of the problem. They're going away to Tottenham this week, which is probably a good fixture from an attacking perspective, but it is an away game anyway. And Tottenham are coming off a pretty morale-boosting win, considering that they looked pretty insistent on keeping their clean sheet against Bodo Glimt. But that's not the problem. In game week 37, they will be hosting Wolverhampton Wanderers, and that game is scheduled to take place just 3 days after the FA Cup final. Of course, we do not know who's going to win the final, but we're going to expect at least some sort of rotation, given it's just 3 days after the final. And then in game week 38, they're going to go away to Anfield when Liverpool are about to lift the trophy in front of their fans. So pretty much want to jump off Crystal Palace straight away, and it doesn't help that both Ismail Assar and Mateta have not been returning either. So definitely want to get rid of both of them this week. Probably not the best week to jump off. That's why I'm going to keep Munoz in my starting team, considering that Tottenham don't keep clean sheets themselves. But definitely have to bring in Bryan Mbeumo this week. I think he's non-negotiable, to be honest. He's going to be my captain. He's probably the best captain. I think the only alternatives are Kevin De Bruyne, but I just think Brentford score more goals than Man City do at the moment. And then the second one is Cunha. Well, of course, I would guess you could say the flavour of the month. The flavour of the week is Yohan Wissa, because he's going away to Ipswich with Bryan Mbeumo. But I think Cunha is a cheeky bit of a differential, given that, you know, I am looking for the top 10k right now. And also just think Cunha scores more points between now and the end of the season. They host Brighton, they go away to Crystal Palace, so Wolves will be the benefactors of hopefully a rotated team in game week 37 when it's 3 days after the final. And then they're hosting Brentford themselves. So given that Brighton and Crystal Palace both rank in the bottom 2 for goals conceded since the international break, I think I'm going to go a bit left of the field and go for Matheus Cunha. So hopefully that doesn't destroy my rank. It's going to be a bit of a scary one, but let's see what happens anyway. Into the team selection, and Emi Martinez is preferred to start in goal over David Raya, who goes to Anfield to hand the card of honour to the champions Liverpool. Congratulations to them. The Argentine travels south to Bournemouth, and while I'm expecting both Arsenal and Aston Villa to concede, Aston Villa have tightened up in a big way since the international break, with only Manchester City conceding fewer than the Villains 4 goals in the last 6 game weeks. So even if Bournemouth do score, hopefully we can get some saves like I should have done last week for Martinez's 9-pointer. Not salty. Daniel Munoz makes the short trip across the capital to North London as Crystal Palace face this year's Europa League finalists Tottenham Hotspur. It remains to be seen how much rotation Ange Postecoglou opts for, but I'm expecting a confident display from the home side given the morale-boosting win, and they also try to keep their clean sheet. It looks like a lot of togetherness, but in the league they don't keep clean sheets. So given that Crystal Palace and Spurs rank in the bottom 2 for goals conceded across the last 6 game weeks, which is since the international break, the Eagles have conceded just 1 more goal than the Lily Whites with 15. So hopefully we're treated to an open game with the Colombian wingback involved in some goals. Aaron Wan-Bissaka has a reunion with his old club this week, Manchester United, as he travels northwest to the Old Trafford to also face this year's Europa League finalists. Graham Potter has been deploying the former Red Devil as a wing-back, and he's taken a shot in the box in each of the past 2 game weeks, in addition to assisting Jared Bowen for the equaliser last week in what looks like a good link-up at the moment. And he scooped 2 bonus doing so, even though Tottenham scored and wiped out the clean sheet, so he's certainly playing very well at the moment, so let's hope for some more returns. Josko Gvardiol will be on the South Coast tomorrow, facing already relegated Southampton. Manchester City have kept 4 clean sheets in the last 6 game weeks, and Southampton have scored just 4 goals across that same time period, which actually ranks bottom in the league. So we're hopeful that, you know, Akanji starts and Gvardiol gets to play the left back position that we all love. But in case O'Reilly starts, yeah, maybe we can hope for a clean sheet, maybe, but I won't count on it. As mentioned, Bryan Mbeumo is my non-negotiable asset this week, and he comes in to captain the side. He's blanked just once in 5 games against the relegated sides this year, and he scored 14 points, at least 14 points in each of the other 4 appearances, scoring 7 goals and assisting 2 in those games. So, considering that Ipswich have conceded the most goals in home games in 2025, no need to overthink it here. I mean, I would, in other words, I would want to maybe go against captaincy, but I don't think this is the week to do so. So, it's going to be captain sensible this week. Mohamed Salah actually suffered a price drop this week due to his faltering form with just 1 goal and assist each in his last 6. But I see him as the best captain next week in game week 37 when Liverpool travel to Brighton. And given that Liverpool will play Palace, the league's leakiest defence across the last 6 game weeks, at Anfield on the last day of the season, and this is before they lift the trophy in front of their fans, I have no plans to sell the Egyptian king. He has also stated personally on record that he has the goal involvement record in his sights. He needs just 2 more to break the record. So let's hope for some more returns. Jared Bowen has 5 returns in the last 5 game weeks. So considering his opponents, Manchester United, have conceded on average 2.5 goals across the last 4 game weeks, it bodes well for the Hammers talisman again, seeing that he's seemingly always involved in their goals. Kevin De Bruyne has scored twice in the last 4 game weeks, and both goals have resulted to double-digit returns. Considering that Southampton have conceded the most big chances in home games since the turn of the year, we should be hopeful of some returns here, and I'm sure that most people are going to be opting for the Belgium this week as well. Matheus Cunha has been very productive in games at Molineux, finding the net 5 times and assisting 3 goals in his last 7 home games. So he will look to add to these 8 attacking returns in the last 7 home outings, with the welcome of a Brighton side that have been extremely porous, Their 14 goals conceded since the last international break is a tally that can only be beaten by Crystal Palace with 15. Matheus Cunha also travels to Palace 3 days after the FA Cup final next game week. So we're facing very poor defences in the last 2 games for Cunha, and that's why I'm opting for him over Wissa. Alexander Isak hosts Chelsea in what is shaping up to be a pivotal match for the race for the top 5 positions. The Swede has returned in each of his last 5 home games, and Newcastle are the league's highest scorers across the last 6 game weeks, finding the net 19 times, 5 more times than the second place Aston Villa. Of course, Chelsea themselves have been pretty stringent in the back, pretty solid defensively, but given that this is St James Park and teams tend to crumble in the big matches there, I am backing Isak for a goal, at least here. Which is less that I can say for Omar Marmoush, who's been fairly disappointing in terms of returns recently, with just 1 goal and no assists in his last 5. He's also yet to return in an away league game for Manchester City, but he did score the winner at Bournemouth in the FA Cup. So he hasn't got travel sickness all the time, but let's hope that he can, break his travel sickness in the league at least, with an already relegated defence for his opposition. So that's the team for this week. I haven't made any transfers yet. As I mentioned, it is a late deadline tomorrow at 1:30 UK time, so definitely hold up for team news if you can. But drop any questions you have into the comments. You can also DM me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will certainly reply before the deadline. So thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.